Hello everyone, I'm Johnny Rabino and today I will discuss the DH parametric tables of a cylindrical manipulator. So let's start first that we will start at the base of our z sub n minus 1 is z sub 0. Our x sub n minus 1 is x sub 0, this one. And our x sub n is x sub 1, this one. So the theta is required rotation attitude to healthy the path of x sub 0 to the path of x sub 1, this one, x sub 1. But they are already at the same root. So for our theta, here is 0 degree plus theta 1, 0 degrees plus theta 1. Plus, so 0 degrees plus theta 1. Next is for homogeneous transformation matrix of frame 1 to frame 2. Our our x sub our z sub n minus 1 is z sub 1. The x sub n minus 1 is x sub 1. And x sub n is the x sub 2, this one. We will make the x sub 1, we will make this x sub 1 identical to the root of x sub 2, this one, the x sub 2. The axis of rotation, the axis of rotation is z sub 1, and the amount of rotation in the shape of x sub 1 to x sub 2 is 270 degrees. This one, 270 degrees. Next for homogeneous transformation matrix, from frame 2 to frame 3, the z sub n minus 1, the z sub n minus 1 is now z sub 2, this one. The x sub n minus 1 is the x sub 2, this one. And the x sub n is the x sub 3, this one. We align x sub 2 with x sub 3, which are already in the equal direction since this joint is prismatic, this joint is prismatic. There may be no rotation needed. For this reason, the theta is 0 degrees. This one, 0 degrees. Next is for alpha. We will start at the base from frame 0 to frame 1. From frame 0 to frame 1, the x sub 1 is the x sub n is the x sub 1. The x sub 0 is the x sub n minus 1, and the z, rather the z sub 0 is the z sub n minus 1, and the z sub 1 is the z sub n. The z sub 1 is the z sub n. It is already in the if we align the z sub 0 to z sub 1, it is already in the equal path. So the alpha here is 0 degrees. 0 degrees. The alpha is 0 degrees in homogeneous transformation 1 to 0. Next, for the row 2, this row 2, from frame 1 to frame 2, the x sub n now is the x sub 2, this one. The x sub n minus 1 is the z sub 1, this one, z sub 1. And the z sub n is the z sub 2, this one, z sub 2. To make will rotate at the x sub will rotate the x sub 2 to make z sub 1 will rotate the x sub 2 to make z sub 1 same course to it. And the direction of the rotation of g sub 1 will be counterclockwise, and it will supply 270 degrees. So 270 degrees. This one 270 degrees. For the final row, for the final row, from body 2 to body 3, the x sub n is x sub 3, and the z sub n minus 1 is the z sub 2, this z sub 2, this one, and the z sub n is the z sub 3, this one, the z sub 3, and z sub n is the z sub 3, so z sub 2, if we rotate z sub 2 to z sub 3, it also already aligned, so our alpha will be 0 degree, 0 degree. So for the parameter of r, we'll begin at the base, x sub n, x sub 1 is x sub n axis. The distance from the origin of the body 1 to the origin of frame 0 along x sub 1 is 0. 0, this one. Because along x sub 1, there is no link length, next, the distance of frame 2 to frame 1 alongside x sub n. Our x sub n here is the x sub 2. This one, the x sub 2. And the distance of the parameter r is 0 because the x sub 0 is pointing forward, and there is no link length located at the ahead direction. 0, also 0 in the parameter r in row 2. For row 3, the distance from frame 3 to frame 2 alongside x sub n, or our alongside x sub n, our x sub n now is x sub 3. X sub 3, this is the x sub 3. It is also 0 because the equal case in body, in body 2 or frame 2 to frame 1, it is pointing forward, so we don't have link lengths. So the row 3 is also 0. So for the parameter d, we begin at the base alongside 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 c sub 0, we have a sub 1. It truly our d in row 1. For in d, we have a sub 1. For row 2, the distance between the origins of body of 2 origins of body 2 and the body 1 alongside z sub 1 axis, since z sub 1 is our z sub n minus 1, is represented by means of the d phi for row 2. The distance denoted as a sub 2 correspond to joint to, and due to the fact it is a prismatic joint, so it is a sub 2 plus d sub 2. In the last row, the distance between the origins of body 3 and body 2 alongside the c sub 2 axis is, since z sub 2 is our z sub n minus 1, and our parameter d is a sub 3 plus d sub 3. This one is the a sub 3 plus d sub 3.